weekly television program brought to you by Mount Olive Lutheran Church. My name is Pastor Shafer. I'm the senior pastor here at Mount Olive. And we spend our time talking to interesting people, locally and around the world, on the topic of hope. Our guest today is Evan White, who's an active member of Mount Olive, a member of our Congregation Council, and who is in business for himself doing some interesting work. Evan, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Pastor. Thanks for having me.
So I just said you do some interesting work. So what is that work you're doing? You're
so
not talking to me. What are you doing for money?
Well, thanks for having me on, and thanks for chatting today, especially about hope. It's exciting. So for work, I've been doing PR and marketing since I graduated from California Lutheran University in 2006. So I started my own PR firm 14 years ago, and I've had a lot of very interesting projects. Most recently, Netflix original Sweet Magnolias with, as you know, Sheryl Anderson's fantastic show that hit #1. And then backtrack to my very first project, another very interesting and exciting one, where now a very good friend of mine, he started a crazy internet project where he had a single red paperclip, and he took a photo of it and he put it on the internet, and he wanted to barter or trade this paperclip
I remember that.
Better things, until he traded all the way up to do you remember?
No.
He traded up to a house. Pretty remarkable. 12 months, 12 trades, got up to a house, and it was a worldwide story back in 2006 and 7. And he got a book deal and a movie deal out of that. And then, the 13 years in between those two projects, lots of other various crazy fun things I've worked on.
Wow, that's really interesting. And you don't come to the Lutheran Church as a newbie. You were nurtured in the Lutheran Church, right? You grew up in it.
That's right. Yeah. So my parents, they divorced when I was 6. But prior to that, I was raised and baptized Missouri Synod in a small town in Scappoose, Oregon, just outside of Portland. And then after my parents separated, my mom and brother and I moved to Spokane, Washington, and we became members in the Spokane Valley at Christ Lutheran Church, ELCA, where I, as you can tell by my personality of knowing me now, I elbowed myself into a youth role on our church council when I was like 15, maybe 14. Got that. Then maybe a year after that, I was elected to the Eastern Washington, Idaho Synod vice president turned president role of the Lutheran Youth Organization there. And my Lutheran work as a child positioned me in a place where, it was probably my pastor and youth pastors, but I was on every single Lutheran university's email and mailing list. So I knew as a child that I was going to go to a Lutheran school. And after touring Pacific Lutheran and California Lutheran, it was an easy choice to come down to the beach.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So when you were active in the Lutheran Youth Ministry, were you on the board of the Lutheran Youth Organization at ELCA-wide at some point?
No, I wasn't, but I did things with Region 1 and your old friend, Dave Ellingson from Evergreen TV and Trinity Lutheran College. So we did a lot of things for Region 1. I had fantastic opportunities to speak on, now, from my perspective, smaller stages, but as a teenager, very large stages in, Portland and Seattle gatherings of, thousands of kids.
Cool. Yeah. That's really great. And we should tell our viewers that when Evan says Missouri Synod, that's the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, which is another Lutheran church body in the USA. A little more conservative than our ELCA, Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, which is the largest Lutheran body in North America.
Yeah.
And we have a long-time relationship with the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, doing work like Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service, Lutheran Rural Relief, Lutheran Social Services, and especially here on the West Coast, we have really good relationships with our brothers and sisters in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. And it differs in other parts of the country, but that's another program we can talk about.
It's good to have the Lutheran part, as kind of the foundation. But my heart and my family certainly are thrilled to be in an ELCA church.
Yeah, thank you. We're thrilled to have you with us, as you know. So, and you are married and have a 4-year-old.
Yep.
4-year-old. And this year you had a new baby that the baby didn't present challenges, but her timing did. So tell us a little bit about baby Spellacy.
Yes. So baby Spellacy, and so my older daughter Lee, this morning she mentioned that when I said that I was going to be on your show here talking about hope, she just assumed it would be talking about her sister because Spellacy's middle name is Hope. So yeah, Spellacy Hope White. She was born 9 weeks early here in Santa Monica. Scheduled birth was end of March. So we kept saying she's not coming in February, and she didn't. She came in January. So she's a trickster. But she was born quite premature in a shocking fashion. My wife Teresa was at her office when things started to happen. That's in Westwood. Her boss took her to Reagan, UCLA, and about 3 hours later, Spellacy had entered the world, which was, a fantastic place to be in physically, but a very difficult place to be in emotionally, and knowing that she had so much more growing to do. She was about 2.5 pounds at birth. And then, she spent 62 days in the NICU here in California. Yeah, pretty wild.
You were able to get her from the NICU at Ronald Reagan to the NICU in Santa Monica fairly early, right? So it was a little... Yeah.
So we, our family spent, my wife and I spent a week with her at Ronald Reagan, and then Teresa was sent home afterwards, and so then we spent a week going back and forth to Ronald Reagan to visit Spellacy, and then she took her. It was right around Valentine's Day that she took her, and of our whole family, she's the only one that's been in an ambulance in LA County, but she took her first ambulance ride across the city from Ronald Reagan to Santa Monica UCLA Hospital, where she spent the rest of her weeks growing, and she's growing big now. She's 10 pounds as of this week, which is exciting, and it's just wonderful to see her and hear her crying and growing and smiling and just being a baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who would have predicted you've gone through what you've gone through these last months? That's just pretty amazing.
Yeah, and so, who knows when people will be watching this, hopefully very, very soon. But if they watch years from now, so Spellacy was born pre or mid-pandemic. So when she was first at the hospital and in the NICU, even in Santa Monica, it was pretty easy, come and go. As long as you're a parent and you had the right wristbands, we could bring in guests. Pastor Eric came to visit one evening. But then there was a time when the pandemic became, tighter requirements and stricter policies to where I wasn't allowed to go to the hospital anymore to see her. It was a one parent, one family member type situation. So Teresa was going there every day. So our routine when Spellacy was about a month old, still at the hospital, was our family would wake up together, 3 of us, Lee, Teresa, and I. We would get Lee ready. The 3 of us would drive to Mount Olive, drop off Lee for preschool. I would take my wife to the hospital, and she would spend most of the day with the baby, and I would go back to work. And that's what we did for about 40 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And now she's almost 5 months old, which is wild. She's they call it corrected because she was born so premature. So she's 3 months corrected. Kind of a wild thing, but she's really starting to thrive.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So speaking of our theme,
Sure.
How did you maintain hope during these times? Because there were some days, I know I talked to you and Teresa, there were some days that didn't feel very hopeful.
No, absolutely. So, we tried to ground ourselves in the faith community of Mount Olive. We feel blessed and thrilled to be a part of that family and our family at the church. So while we were doing the shuttling kids and families back and forth to spend time with places, as you know, people from our church were spending their days cooking for us and helping to make sure that our daughter Lee would, arrive back to our home safe, so we could spend more time in traffic going to see the baby, and less time in our kitchen cooking, and literally 5 days a week, our daughter would arrive home with bags of groceries and prepared meals and things. So that was a relief, but also so wonderful for us to have that burden lifted off of us. And I think that, is hope living out in real life, because we were so hopeful and just spending so much of our energy and time praying and wishing the doctor's health and hoping their guidance would, prevail, which it has. We're not out of the woods yet. There's a few conditions that Spell Us Hope is still dealing with, and May for her life. But yeah, we are constantly hopeful that the guidance that these amazing scientists and doctors are giving us will keep us on the right path.
That's great, thank you. So as you look forward over the next years of your life, what gives you hope as you look toward the future?
Well, it's watching these two girls and my grown-up wife girl, these three girls in my life, smile and even in dark and hard and scary times, have fun and be able to know that there's tougher things on the horizon, but to focus on what we're doing in the now, and be able to joke around and kid and say, not make light, but talk about in ways that we just know that we're growing through this together.
Wonderful. Thank you.
We do that a lot.
Good. Well, thank you for being with us today and talking about your life and your family and recent events and hope in your life. And I think about, you're going to tell this baby stories about the pandemic that when she's a little older, she's going to say, "What?"
Yeah. Well, it is crazy. So our oldest daughter, Lee, is a leap day baby. So she came into this world on February 29th, 2016. So this year she turned 1. And all of my friends and family and people that know us said, of course, you've got this kid who was born on leap day. And surprisingly enough, my mom's grandfather was also a leap day baby.
How about that?
And then our second child, miraculously born out of a pandemic in these crazy times, which I've talked to friends and people that she has the most amazing origin story for a child born in 2020, who knows what 40 or 50 years from now will look like as a space fighting Avenger coming from this pandemic time. It is a lot of hope needed there, and just a wild thing. Yeah, I think you're right. I think she won't believe it.
I think so. All right. Well, thank you very much for being with us. Our guest today on Hope Matters has been Evan White, who is the staff member, the only staff member for Evan White Communication, and member of Mount Olive and our council, and in his young life has had some unique experiences, especially and more recently around the birth of his second child. And thank you for sharing with us today, Evan. We really appreciate it. Thanks for being with us.
Yes, thanks, Pastor.
This is Hope Matters on Mount Olive Lutheran Church, our television program on YouTube, where we talk to interesting people about hope in their lives, because we have a God of hope. Thanks for being with us today. Hope Matters.